That's good. That's good. Okay. I think we're live now on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter, and of course here on TikTok. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you had a good week. Thank God it's Friday. We're ending the week with a bang, and I'm very sure you're gonna have a great time today. And thank you for keeping the date. I know it's now 4 p.m., but I'm glad a lot of us, now know, so we're able to work with the new schedule. So thank you very much for being here. If you're on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Please like the live, right? Those up top on your screen to like the live. If you're on Facebook, please share the live and like as well. Same on X. Kindly like and repost or retweet. Thank you very much. I'm just going to check to be sure that every platform is good, and then we can get into the conversation for today. So I say play traditional FM music, not now. Once I get on YouTube, no more music. Oh boy. So somebody said hello. Yes, Olalekan comrade Ẹkáàbọ Dadalewa. Good to see you. Okay, I think we're good on YouTube. Please like the live on YouTube. Please power tap on TikTok and also share the live. Thank you very, very much. Okay. I want to like as well, so that all of us are doing it together. Okay. So today we're going to continue with the series Awolowo, Akintola, and the Battle for the West. We're going to get into all of that into this conversation. Before we do that, we're going to have the news. We're going to have the news. I think we're going to start outside the country today. We're going to start in Kenya. Thousands of mourners, this is from Reuters, by the way. Thousands of mourners attended the state funeral for Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga under heavy security, a day after police opened fire and killed 3 people at a public viewing of his body. So I can see a lot of people here celebrating the life of that person. So there's something that is honorable and say, what anyway, we're going to get to that about the old Awolowo. Somebody came up and said Awolowo was not a good, was not a whatever. I'll explain when we get to that point. I just think that let me do other news before we get to that, because we might stay on that for a bit. I'm just trying to set some things. Just 1 second. second. So let's get into this. We're good. So we've had a number of things in the last few days. I'm just going to go through some of those things, and then we will discuss more things. Interestingly, and something else from Reuters, is actually a motorcycle taxi driver in Cameroon sleeping on a bicycle because he cannot afford a room. It's quite interesting how terrible things are. And I don't mean to say let's compare Nigeria with the worst. I just mean to say that we should be grateful and thankful for what we have so far, and hopefully we can also do better. Of course, we have to do better, as a matter of fact, to make sure that we reduce the burden and the stress that people are going through in Yoruba land. Having said that, their reactions to Showore's call for protest, for Nnamdi Kanu, and one of the people who is lending his voice, to the conversation at the moment, is a gentleman whose name I can't recall now, but this is from VOP TV, and the man has this to say about the plans that Showore has for Nnamdi Kanu. Please take a listen to this.
Listen, I have said.
1 second. That music has to stop. Okay.
Listen, I have said that somebody should not exploit the Igbos because of this thing.
You think that the Igbos have been exploited with
that
this?
Is what Showore is doing, because there are so many things the Igbos have suffered in this Lagos and in this Nigeria that Showore never even rise up to defend them, especially in this Lagos. There are so many things the Igbos have suffered in Nigeria and in this Lagos. Showore or anybody have never come up and said, no, this is too much, we don't want it. Right. But because of this particular one that entered into politics, everybody now want to lash on to it.
Well, but we'll be speaking with Omoyele Showore tomorrow to counter all of this talk. We'll ask him all of these questions. How a couple of people think he's working for the government is a deliberate distraction. It's a possibility of taking the votes of support of Peter Obi to himself. A couple of persons are now looking to him to say he's bold and brazen. That's kind of leadership they need.
That's what they did.
Compared to how Peter Obi's attitude is towards political issues. Nigeria needs somebody firm, somebody that can do something outrageous, so we're going to look into all of that tomorrow with
when there was ENSA protest, Showore ran away to UK.
He ran away to UK.
He ran away. Listen very well. When DSS were looking for him, the day he came back at the airport, it was Tinubu's wife that made a phone call and said that nobody should touch him. They cleared the way and he entered Nigeria. True or false? Esther, tell me I'm lying now. Tell me I'm lying.
I'm not updated.
Really? This same Showore went to go and sit where they prepared for Sanwo-Olu to sit down in a function in this Lagos. And they told him to stand up, that place is for the governor. He said they should go and look for another seat for the governor that he's going to sit down here. Can you try it as an Igbo man? Try it. Esther, try it and see what will happen to you. Whether they will not call you a terrorist, that you want to murder the governor. No, try it now. Who called Tinubu a criminal? When no court said so, and he's still walking about. I said try it now and see whether they will not put you in a dungeon where there will be no air. No, who went to court against Egbetoku's elongation, calling him illegal IGP? Did the court to call him illegal IGP? Did the court mention that court that said that IGP Egbetoku is an illegal IGP, is occupying an illegal office?
So you know,
except to Showore,
except Showore, trusting this court.
But I am telling you, the person that you now want to be the Messiah of the Igbos. That's what I'm trying to. I want to give you his profile.
That he wants to be Messiah.
Yes, he wants to exploit the position of Nnamdi Kanu now. And I want to say yes.
But they've been friends for a long time. He said it himself.
I said leave that thing. I don't ask you. Other things the Igbos have suffered in Lagos here. Why didn't he protest?
Barrister
why didn't he?
He has been speaking on quite.
He has not been speaking on our behalf
concerning inequality and imbalance.
What I'm saying now is that Look, if you have a father in Abraham, you are not likely to go to hell, no matter what you do. It's a biblical proverb. If your father is Abraham, Abraham will not be there and see his children go to hell. All these things that Shore have committed, didn't the Cal even say 1/4 of those things or commit 1/4? And he's walking about free. All the cases he have been talking about, each time they arrest him, they give him bail, the matter will die a natural death.
The guy was shouting. I was trying to, but it was just a bunch of nonsense. Once you start by saying that every other person can do it, but if the evil man does it, you already are defeated. This is a defeatist mindset, and it's clear, and it's and I'm glad that they are speaking up, by the way, so that Shore will also know what he's up to, with his whole agenda. But we're going to come back to someone like this later, but we can't have two back-to-back because it's affecting me, hearing people just reasoning like this. So move away from there. We'll come back to that later. This one is from INEC. So a group of guys had petitioned INEC for certified true copies of the National Register of Voters for the entire country and the existing polling units in all the electoral wards in Nigeria, pursuant to Section 15 of the Electoral Act of 2022. So INEC put out a statement in response to those people, the lawyers, and also a public. They made it public as well. And so they says they are requesting the group to pay the sum of 1,505,901,750 naira only, being the cost of production of the above, kindly paid to remittance, so on and so forth. So we've got, people started saying, oh, why would they not just give it to them? Apparently they asked for certified true copy, which means that they have to print those things out. And there's something that INEC also said in pursuant to that particular release. So it says clarification on cost of National Register of Voters and polling unit requests. The INEC wishes to clarify matters concerning the recent request by Messrs. VC Otuakpokpo and Associates for certified true copies of the National Register of Voters for all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, as well as the existing polling units in the electoral wards across the country. The Commission received the request on 8th October 2025 and responded on 13th October 2025, approving the application while outlining the cost for processing and issuance. The sum quoted, 1,505,901,750 naira, has become a subject of media attention and public inquiry. INEC emphasizes that the cost is determined strictly in line with the provisions of Section 8, subsection 1 of the Freedom of Information Act 2011, which states that where access to information is to be given under this act, the public institution may charge an amount representing the actual cost of document duplication and transcription. Essentially, what they are saying basically is that they are not asking for money to do any other thing but to produce the document that the man is or the group were requesting. And then he said, or was requesting. Then he said that for clarity, let me go back just a bit. In accordance with INEC guidelines for the processing and issuance of certified truth copies of documents, which draws authority from Section 15 of the Electoral Act 2022, the applicable charge is 250 naira per page. For clarity, the National Register of Voters for all 36 states and the FCT contains 93,469,008 registered voters, with 16 voters per page, requiring 6,018,661 pages, and so on and so forth. Essentially, they're just giving the person how they should send via. They can't send via mail. The guy asked for a certified true copy. They can't send an email. It's a request. It didn't say send, a copy of this of registered voters to so and so email address. No, he said they should send certified true copy. That means you have to print it out and you hold it in your hands. So essentially, they're saying that they have to print millions of pages, actually, more than 6 million pages, if they're to, give the person what the person wanted. So that was, the buzz for some days. I mean, I think it happened about 2 days ago. We get very loud. So that's that about that. From the cable, Nnamdi Kanu medically fit to stand trial. NMA tells court. The Nigerian Medical Association says Nnamdi Kanu's health condition does not appear life-threatening. In a ruling on September 26, James Omotosho, presiding judge, had issued an order directing the president of the NMA to constitute an investigative panel to ascertain the defendant's health status. Omotosho gave the directive while ruling on an application seeking to move Kanu, leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, from the Department of State Services, DSS custody to the National Hospital in the Federal Capital Territory for treatment. I don't know if you remember, a while back, folks from Kanu's corner were saying he was sick, his kidney, his liver, his this and that. Apparently, the court is saying that there's nothing wrong with him, like he's fit and he can stand trial, and we shouldn't be, again, bamboozled by. I mean, if he was sick, they should let him go, but apparently, in fact, let me just read a few more things from this place. The IPOB leader had claimed that his health had deteriorated in detention, citing medical reports that revealed liver and pancreatic complications, a lump under his armpit, and dangerously low potassium levels. But the prosecution had opposed the application, insisting that the federal government had provided Kanu with adequate care in detention. At the court session on Thursday, Awolowo Prosecution Counsel said the report has been received and filed in court on October 13, and it has also been served on the defense. Kanu Agabi, the defendant's counsel, admitted that they have been served. In the report read in open court, the NMA panel concluded that Kanu is fit to stand trial. Based on the information contained in the report and in the absence of any objection from lawyers to parties, Omotosho said the court was convinced that the defendant could proceed with the trial. Omotosho said he would give 6 consecutive dates for the defendant to open and close his defense. Agabi urged the court to fix a date for the defendant to be brought before it so that defense counsel could interview him, expressing concern that the DSS might eavesdrop if the meeting were held at its facility. It then fixed Wednesday, October 22, between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. for the meeting. They are going to have to confer privately in court. Essentially, Nnamdi Kanu is going to stand trial. But his lawyer, after leaving the court, decided to speak to the press. This is what he had to say. Please take a listen to this.
About somebody's life. Of course, as a matter of this thing, the Igbos are on trial. This is a war against the Igbos. Of course, you are here when the president ordered the police and the army to go and negotiate and have a discussion with the terrorists and the non-bandits in this town. With their arms. And somebody that is exercising his rights as given to him by the Constitution, both local and international legislations, and you say that he should enter trial. Trial for what? What is it? What are you trying for? Do you have even jurisdiction? Does the court have jurisdiction to entertain this particular matter? Somebody that has been discharged by court of appeal. So we don't want to go into that. This is a trial. Again, these Igbos are on trial. This is a persecution, not a prosecution. And I stand by it. And I'm calling the entire Nigerians. It's the Igbos and the Nnamdi Kanu today. It can be another person tomorrow. And we should stand against it. That's why we are protesting. Why should we be treating a human being like this? Simply because the offense Nnamdi Kanu committed is because he's an Igbo man. Can you do it somebody from the north? Can you do it somebody from the west? You cannot. People have been agitating. Son has been going around agitating for Republic of Oduduwa. Have you arrested him? The answer is no. Because Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo, and he feels that nobody can speak with him for him. And we are saying no to that. We can never be intimidated. Nobody is more Nigerian than anybody. Nobody is a second-class citizen in this country, and we are going to fight it. I'm begging judiciary to not allow yourself to be used. They know what they are doing. Are you telling me that it was on the 13th? Court gave you 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you now produce the document on the 13th, and you kept it with you. You did not allow us to go and see our client with it, only for you to serve us 5 minutes before court is sitting, and you asked us to respond. Is this injustice or injustice, for goodness sake? We should call Evo. And when you call Evo, it will stop existing.
That's not supposed to be a lawyer. Nnamdi Kanu is on trial. He says the Igbos that are on trial. Again, let's use this to do a little history class. 1948 it was. Another Nnamdi. This time Nnamdi Azikiwe had returned from a trip to the UK representing NCNC with some other leaders, including Madam Olufumilare Ransome-Kuti. They had raised money for them to travel. They raised £13,000. They went and then they returned. And when they returned, the trip was considered utter failure. It was so bad that the Igbos in the Southeast decided to organize a day of mourning because they didn't have any, you can't say that this is something they achieved. 1 second. All right. So they went to the UK, returned. They didn't achieve much, or even say nothing. They didn't achieve anything. Anyway, they had a day of mourning in the eastern region. When they returned to the western region, people started asking questions, and then it got to the point of talking about money. This was between 47 and 48. And so they started asking for, like, okay, so give us accounting of how much you spent on the trip. Well, after it was prodded long enough, he said, wait, out of the £13,000 that we got to travel to the UK, 9,000 came from the eastern region. That's from Azikiwe. People started, having issues with what he was doing. And that spilled into what happened in 48, with all the shenanigans that West African Pilot was doing with the Yoruba people. But there's a statement they made. The statement they made in 48 was that any attack on Nnamdi Azikiwe was an attack on the Igbos. You know what? Let me find that page. I want to make a statement on what that so-called lawyer said, but I think it's better to do it with what I'm about to do. Give me a second. La 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 la. I'm going to read from a book called Between the Ethnic and the National. If I don't find it, well, I've already told you the source. The source is Between the Ethnic and the National. The point is, what's happening right now is very similar to what happened in the 1940s, where a person does something wrong, and instead of people to actually, face the matter and talk about the issue that's happening, it becomes something more than that. It becomes anything that is done against him. But I found it. No, not this one. It's also establish moral. I'll find it, but it's in the book. The book is written by Remi Adekoya. The point is that this thing where folks cannot have a say on matters, or you cannot even discuss the merit of an issue without introducing tribalism or your tribe and ethnic identity, and then you turn around and call everybody tribalist. In other words, the only person who invokes ethnicity or ethnic identity into conversations is the one who turns around to call every other person tribalist if you don't go along with what he considers to be the right thing based on his understanding of what ethnic identity should guarantee you in Nigeria. I will find that thing today, I promise. Mombo. It's not today's topic, but it bears, talking about. The thing about Nigeria is that the more things change, the more they remain the same. I'm going to find that thing now. I found it. The declaration occurred, this was September 19. Oh, yeah, I got it. Oh, good. God is good. Let me read to you. I read from two sources. So let me read from Reminotida, Remadikoya's thesis that between the ethnic and the national. It says here, meanwhile, at a mass meeting of Igbos in Lagos, it was declared personal attacks on Azikiwe would be considered I'll take that again. Meanwhile, at a mass meeting of Igbos in Lagos, it was declared personal attacks on Azikiwe would be considered attacks on the Igbo nation, in quote. Don't mind me, we waited all of that because of what I wanted to read. I want to make sure I read it out of a book because it's easier that way for me rather than, so people not say I'm just saying it. I'll look for another one. There's another one where it says it again. So what happens basically is this. If somebody from Igbo land does something wrong, you're not supposed to say anything, because if you do, it will be considered an attack on his people. Therefore, you're supposed to shut up. This issue is an issue against Nnamdi Kanu. I don't know what I want for him, to be honest, because yesterday I was watching a 2015 where he was asking for arms and ammunition, was telling them to give them money. Maybe I even play it. He was asking them to give him money that they're going to sponsor IPOB to get arms and ammunition to fight. And people were saying, what are you talking about? There were moderate Igbos, there were sensible Igbos in that meeting who were like, this thing you're talking about, like, it's serious. Like, why are you, in fact, I'll play one of those ladies, because she didn't even talk herself. I beg, 1 second, may I play? How did I switch to pidgin? Me and this pidgin, it is well. So let's do it this way. I want you to take a listen to this. This was in Maryland at the World Igbo Congress it was in Los Angeles, not Maryland, Los Angeles, 2015. Take a listen to this, please.
I don't understand. You have given a mandate, you have given a date, and you say it's do or die. So, I don't know. You're not going to die. Because I know too that America would have not been like this today if Martin Luther did not stand his ground and go to war and fight for, peace. And that's why people like me is here today to enjoy. But I want to ask you all that, how can we, at this interim time, go into this, I don't know. It's like he's talking like Naga war. My heart is just like this. So what is going on? Please.
Okay. The fact of the matter is that we have to speak the truth. It may not sound very palatable, but as our brother Dr. George Verisi, he spoke earlier, about truthfulness and honesty.
Because let me again thank you for the effort you are making on behalf of all of us Igbos and Biafrans. But I have a question to ask, because after a while, we're going to start thinking. I don't want to Igbo to accept the fact that the changing in name will make us different. Name was see, as you imagine. As we stand here today, there are at least 7 states that are predominantly Igbos. And in the context of Nigeria, none of them have reported to us that they never received the federal allocation. And as I see, even you and I here, we have not agitated in the state we come from to make things better for our people.
The man, that was the meeting. It's actually long. I don't want to play everything. But the point I'm trying to make is that they're responding to a particular statement that he made, asking that he wanted to buy guns and they're going to give them money. 1 second, please. All right. So the man was trying to speak to that. In fact, let me play from beginning. Let's see if I can play on the other side of this video. This goes back to 2015. Oh. Hey. In case you have not listened to this before, I think it's important. Just give me a second.
If we miss this golden opportunity, we are bound to suffer in time to come. I have not come, of course, we love all of you. I like the fact that you are doing very well, all of you in America. But there is one more thing that you must do. You must come out to support what you're doing. We need guns and we need bullets. I know we love life so much. That's why we name the human being a mad. That's why we don't kill. To kill somebody is very difficult for us. So to ask the gathering of people who feel that we need guns and bullets and weapons will be very, very difficult for you to digest. But without it, our will overrun us. They have succeeded in planting a culture in Imo State. One big, massive problem we have. The same thing that happened to do in Akwa Ibom. If they succeed in triangulating, because in life everything is in triangle, if they get away, if they take Ibocha for Zakot, then we are finished as a people. Completely gone as a race. You will come back home, you know the way to your father's compound, because they are coming. Boko Haram is everywhere in Biafra land. They will overrun us in a matter of minutes. And the world will not talk about it, because mankind is afraid of Biafra. They believe that Biafra, after Biafra comes, the world will come to an end. Ask any white man, they will tell you. They believe that Biafra is the last miracle. Once it comes...
I believe it's going to be the last. Biafra is the last miracle. Boko Haram was going to Eastern Nigeria in 2015. Boko Haram, Emo Berolong, Anokumulai. Boko Haram in 2015 going to the east. It says they're going to need guns and they'll need bullets. This is the same person that the lawyer is saying the only reason Nigeria is trying him is because he's Igbo. In other words, forget the fact that he has done anything or said anything. Forget ESN. The only reason that is being done is because they are persecuting him. I'd like you to take a listen again to that. Now, lawyer will call him Abi. Now, lawyer and call himself, so no call him lawyer. May I find that video? I want you to just listen to this. I can't even find the video again. You heard it already. I don't even think it's okay. We found it. Please take a listen to him again.
This thing, the Igbos are on trial. This is a war against the Igbos. Of course, you are here when the president ordered the police and the army to go and negotiate and have a discussion with the terrorists and the non-bandits in this town.
With their arms.
And somebody that is exercising his right as given to him by the Constitution, both local and international legislations, and you say that he should enter trial. Trial for what? What is it trial? What are you trying for? Do you have even jurisdiction? Does the court have jurisdiction to entertain this particular matter? Somebody that has been discharged by Court of Appeal. So we don't want to go into that. This is a trial. Again, these Igbos are on trial. This is a persecution, not a prosecution. And I stand by it. And I'm calling the entire Nigerians. It's the Igbos and the Nandekalu today. It can be another person tomorrow. And we should stand against it. That's why we are protesting. Why should we be treating a human being like this? Simply because the offense Nandekalu committed is because he's an Igbo man. Can you do it somebody from the north? Can you do it somebody from the west? You cannot. People have been agitating. So has been going around agitating for Republic of Oduduwa. Have you arrested him? The answer is no, because Nandekalu is an Igbo, and he feels that nobody can speak with him for him, and we are saying no to that. We can never be intimidated. Nobody is more Nigerian than anybody. Nobody is a second-class citizen in this country, and we are going to fight it. I'm begging judiciary not allow yourself to be used. They know what they are doing. Are you telling me that it was on the 13th? Court gave you 2 weeks. 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you now produce the document on the 13th, and you kept it with you. You did not allow us to go and see our client with it, only for you to serve us 5 minutes before court is sitting, and you asked us to respond. Is this injustice or injustice, for goodness sake? We should call evil, and when you call evil, it will stop existing.
Well, in this country, when Sunday Igbo's house was raided by security officials from the DSS, they didn't say that because it was Yoruba, he could do anything he wanted. When this country where El Zakzaki was prosecuted, was in prison for a very long time, we're all in this country, is a northerner. This thing is about issues, not about ethnic origin of the person. And if you can just focus on that issue, perhaps, you'll be able to argue your case. I don't know if he's guilty or not. That's left to the court. But this whole thing where you play the victim and try to change the narrative, and yes, you're right. Apart from the fact that Sunday Igbo's house was raided, he escaped to Benin Republic. He was arrested in Benin Republic. Nigerian lawyers representing the Nigerian government, also went to Benin Republic to prosecute him. And then he was under house arrest in Benin Republic. So the idea that because he was Yoruba, they didn't do anything to him. When you talk like this again, if a young Igbo person hears people are supposed to be educated, how do you want them to think? You are the one saying that nobody is more Nigerian. Who says anybody is more Nigerian? Say nobody is second class. You're actually second class. Not because you are, but because you say you are. Therefore, you are. Just talk based on what happened, and it is well. There's another one I'll play later. Let me first give you one good news in case you live in Lagos. This is good news for Lagosians. Mr. Governor's Eco Rice special discount for World Food Day. In celebration of World Food Day, Mr. Governor is offering a special 10% discount on the sale of Eco Rice. If you want to buy Eco Rice, it will be on Thursday, October 16th at Police College in Ikeja. That's good news for those who are interested. Ilara Ini. There's an Ilara thing I saw there, I don't know if I should play it. There's one more video I'm going to play before we go, but I think I'd probably play. Oh yeah, Sarah Reporters. Says Igbo was charged to court in Benin Republic for entering illegally and other vices. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And his people went there to support him. And he didn't say it was because he was Yoruba that he was being persecuted. They had to make a case for him, not based on, again, this victim mindset. The Ohaneze Youth Council worldwide has announced a total shutdown of all Igbo-owned shops, markets, companies, and businesses across Nigeria on Monday, October 20, 2025, in solidarity with the peaceful protest march to Aso Rock being led by Omoyele Sowore. The demonstration seeks to demand the immediate and unconditional release of IPOB leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The directive was contained in a statement issued on Tuesday by the National President of OIC, Comrade Igboayaka O. Igboayaka, who described the planned shutdown as a moral and patriotic duty, a peaceful declaration that the Igbo nation stands firmly with truth, justice and the rule of law. We cannot continue business as usual while a son of Igbo land remains unjustly detained against multiple subsisting court judgments ordering his release, the OIC president said. According to the statement, the action covers all Igbo shops, markets, business outlets, companies, and transport operations across Nigeria. The council directed that, quote, all Igbos resident and visiting Abuja are to join the Showore-led peaceful protest march to Aso Rock, maintaining discipline, decorum, and the spirit of peaceful solidarity. It added that in all other states of the Federation, all Igbo traders, transporters, artisans, and business operators are to close their shops, markets, and offices completely throughout the duration of the protest. Wonderful. Wonder, 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 wonder. So you turn to wonder that. Anyway, I'd like to play a video of a man threatening to shut down, to have economic blockade of Nigeria by the Igbos. Maybe they will start on 20th October, which would be a brilliant idea, to be honest. But take a listen to this person and what he has to say.
Igbos, if they unite, they can put economic blockade on Nigeria.
Yes.
Even now, if they decide to do it, they have the capacity. They don't need any government. This is part of the reason the Jews are so powerful in America.
In the world.
Yeah.
Why have they not realized this potential? Because if they really have this potential, it's a bargaining power.
They have it. The time is coming. Before they are building, you understand? They are taking up territories. They are growing. They have not reached there, but just a little. You remember when GT had problem with Innocent? And just one campaign that everybody should take their money from GT. GT was on air begging. You understand? When the Igbos start to take their money out from GT, they came to air, start begging that please, it's not like that, trying to, because if all the Igbos should take their money from GT, that is the end.
GT did not apologize. Innocent actually apologized. Let me read something to you from Business Day. This is from 2018, by the way. Innocent publicly claimed, this is June 2018, Innocent publicly claimed a Supreme Court victory. Let me read the whole thing. This is from Business Day, June 14, 2018. Innocent Motors, in a twist to its court case with Guaranty Trust Bank, GTB, has admitted to a false statement in its recent declaration of victory against the bank. This was stated in a recent statement released by the spokesperson, Cornelius Osigwe, in which automobile entrepreneur recanted an initial tweet stating that the Supreme Court had ordered GT Bank this thing don't cover this thing. GT Bank to chairman of Innocent Motors, Dr. Innocent Chukuma, 14 billion naira within 14 days. A statement that caused social media storm and reactions among customers of the bank and other Nigerians. GT did not beg Nigerians because Innocent said they should take money away. Innocent actually lied that the Supreme Court ordered GT Bank to pay him 14 billion naira. There was panic, and GT now issued a statement. I just want to ask the question: Is that like a place where people gather to just share delusions and they just now manifest it in public? Because this nonsense that this guy is talking about, like they have so much power, they affected GTB. They didn't affect GTB. So when Igbos were removing their money from GTB, that did not happen. GT spoke up because Innocent lied. And Innocent apologized. GT did not apologize for that claim. And how are you going to have economic blockade when you manufacture nothing apart from fake stuff? How does economic blockade work? How does it work? You buy and sell, you now create economic blockade. Do you not know that you are easy to be disposed of. Like, people can just go around and buy, because you're not the one manufacturing anything. I don't know who advises these people, Sha. And is this chest beating we can do? Can it come for Nigeria? Please do it today. I think it would be nice, because I mean, they should even show Nigeria themselves, show us, so that we can learn. Because, be like say, all these mouths don't do too much. Just do what you want to move, understand the game. And this is another one of them talking about what's happening on 20th of October. By the way, if you're able here, I think you should listen to them. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I mean, who am I to stop you? Here is one of your brothers talking about the importance of October 20. Take a listen, please.
Now the whole market now Lagos State. Now the whole market now Lagos State. Now the whole market now the whole Nigeria. Because of this protest. I'm going to show for the whole Igbo people. Now the whole chairman, every meeting, for 1 day. There's matter of Latin and the Carlo. Because again, the guy is one of the million. The whole Africa don't know the Carlo. The whole world don't know the Carlo. Therefore, the last bet, sit at home. All the whole market of Nigeria is supposed to be shut down. Because one, if your mama supported a lion, our someone supported him. Now you a people man, you want to go and open your shop. The government that shop come to you. Who you go home? Who's coming to listen to you? Therefore, my brothers, all the whole chairman, please, I'm Ayo seeker. Let's not often now the Carlo. 1 day closing market. God bless all of now. The whole Nigeria, market on it. I don't want to market. To the fair. Also, the whole Nigeria. I tell you mighty about Jesus. God bless you.
Thank you very much. That's very good. I think it's beautiful, what they want to do. It's just they're having this on that date, NSAS anniversary. Interesting. Anyway, in other news, Showore was denied access to Kanu. Take a listen to this one very quickly.
For sure, I mean, why would you say no access for sure? Which order? Who gave you the order? Who gave you the order? Who gave you the order that I should not have access to the...
Don't camera us here.
Who gave you the order? I want to call somebody. No.
Don't camera us here. I will break you.
Organize yourself.
Why are you cameraing?
Organize yourself.
Now you're supposed to behave yourself.
Organize yourself.
Don't use bottle.
Organize yourself.
Oh yeah? Move.
Organize yourself. Why would you want to take my phone? What do you want to take my phone for?
Come back, do your work.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just returning from the Supreme Court of Nigeria, where there was supposed to be a ruling today regarding the freedom of Nnamdi Kanu, that's the leader of Biafra, who has been in detention, illegal detention in Nigeria after he was extraordinarily renditioned from Kenya almost 2.5 years ago. And it's so shameful that the Nigerian security services mounted checkpoints at the entrance of the Supreme Court. Twice I tried to enter the Supreme Court through different gates. They refused to come down.
Revise back. This is the judge's law. I beg revise back.
Who is the judge? The judge is not.
Who is the judges?
Who is the judge?
We are saying who is the judges?
Yes.
Who is the judge? You say?
Anyone be?
Revise back.
Just relax.
Just revise back. He said who is the judges? Revise back.
They made it clear that there's an order from above, as usual, that said I cannot attend to this ruling. We are waiting, and I just worry that he may not get justice because it's a very early day or early morning sign that they might have something up their sleeves. But I hope I'm wrong for the first time today. But regardless of what they do, Kanu must be free. He must be granted his freedom because he's not a criminal. And we know who the criminals are in this country. They're the ones running the country, sadly. So that's a report from the Supreme Court this morning.
It's no longer news that...
All right, so that's Showore, and yeah. Interesting. All right. Somebody made a statement about Awolowo yesterday. I know people have been discussing it on social media. I said Awolowo was not a great politician, and then he said, just put it out there like that. I think people get carried away, and sometimes I think people also have a problem communicating the real thoughts they have, because sometimes you can say a person, maybe that's not what he meant to say, but his way of Agbekale Oroyen was very deficient. And this is what I think. I think that a definition of politics, right, where you just do everything, the end justifies the means, if you use that as the basic definition of politics, then Awolowo wasn't a good one. All right. But if you look at impact, it's heads and shoulders above every other person that led their people or their regions. And that's why today, go across the three main regions, the Nigeria at the time, and ask people, give us 5 things that the premier of your region did between 52 and maybe 59, and for Sardauna, he was there till 66. Out of 3 things that are still there. I'm not saying nobody did any good thing for their people, but clearly Awolowo's legacy, outshines every other person's. But that's not even the point. The point is, we have to be careful of these ridiculous comparisons that we're doing. And I notice it, people say Awolowo and Tinubu. The always will say, never compare them. Awolowo is better. The other will say, Tinubu is president. Why don't just have the truth? Why don't just speak from the truth? Why is everything Tupac and Biggie, Barrister and Kollington? Why does everything have to be like that? Why can't you just say, this man, this one? And by the way, Awolowo is Orisha status. Tinubu is a fantastic politician, but he's not at that level. You can't even compare them. The context is different. Tinubu did not have to fight people that are trying to. Who are the people showing ego in terms of now we own Nigeria together, in terms of we fought for independence? There are no nationalists fighting Tinubu. There are no people in different regions. We had 3 states at the time, and the 2 other states were bent on destroying the Western region. The two groups, NTNC and MPC. Tinubu did not experience that. Yes, and I always talk about it. He did not work with the feudal establishment in the north, based on principles. But of course, we're not going to understand that today because our politicians don't have principles anymore. So we don't know the difference. We have no frame of reference. If we say a politician does something based on principles, for us, it's like Greek. We don't understand it because we can't see it around us. That's what they did. At least that's what he did. And I've said it several times. Awo worked with the North. He just did not work with the establishment. So when you're talking about people like Aminu Kano, when you're talking about NEPO, when you're talking about UMBC, Joseph Taka, he worked with the North, but not with the establishment, based on principles. If that makes him a terrible politician, then so be it. But I was talking to my mentor yesterday, and we were talking about this particular statement that the person made, and he said, and I said, if Awo, and this is what he reminded me of what I said. Tí Awolowo bá ṣe nǹkan gẹ́gẹ́ bí òṣèlú ṣe ń ṣe, kò ní jẹ́ Awolowo. Tọ́bí àwọn olóṣèlú ṣe ń ṣe. In other words, if Awolowo acted like a politician, he would not be Awo. For him to be Awo, he had to be that way. And of course, being Awo, being Orisha does not mean, I've said it several times, even in traditional Yoruba understanding and philosophy, our Orishas are not perfect. The beautiful thing about our forebears is that they will acknowledge the frailty of the person that they are elevating to the Orisha status. They will never lie that the person did not have frailties, but they don't capitalize on the frailty. You know why? If you capitalize on that, you will miss out on everything you could learn from that person. It's your loss. ẹni tó fẹ́ kú ti kú, ó ti ṣe nǹkan tó fẹ́ ṣe, ó ti lọ ibi tó lọ, bàbá ò ti ẹ̀kú ti ẹ̀mí ẹ̀ ṣe wà ń bí, ó ti ṣe nǹkan tó fẹ́ ṣe, ìwọ ló kù, ó lè fi ẹgbẹ̀rún ọdún ayé ẹ̀ máa fi máa bu pé kò ṣe báyìí, kò ṣe kíní kan, kí ni ìwọ rí kọ́ nǹkan tó ṣe. And I can assure you, if you remember, there was a time, I don't know if you remember, this was around first term of Tinubu. Somebody says Tinubu is less tribalistic. You don't know Awo. You have no idea who Awo was. Who was the person that moved the motion for independence? Don P. Because you guys talk as if you know what you're talking about. Tamade gba orin yín báyìí korofoni. Echo la máa gbọ́ pọ́n 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 pọ́n, ó máa reverberate, kò sí ọmọ gbẹ̀yìn máa wà tó máa sọ òkò sínú orí ẹ̀ sínú polo ni. Echo la máa gbọ́ of that thing reverberating, you know. The brain is not as big as not you. I don't know until you show me who you are. But the way you're sounding like another popolo on the feedback paro. The point is this: the person who moved the motion for independence was not even Yoruba, and it was an AG move. Why would a tribalistic person give that assignment to somebody who is not of his own stock? And knowing full well that that particular action will be talked about forever in the annals of Nigeria's history. And in case you didn't study, in case you don't, you know, the person's name is Anthony Nauro. He's from Uromi. He's Ishan. Sorry, I'm not, it's too early for me to be arguing, I beg. I never even reached the topic. We're just talking news. So just calm your nerves, eh? Take a minute off. Is Ishan? When the Igbos were moving into the western region to take advantage of education, why did Awo not send them back since it was so tribalistic? Do you know how many of your fathers went to school in Yoruba land just because of Awolowo's free education? Were they sent back? It was tribalistic, but your fathers went to school in Yoruba land. Torí ibi tá dé báyìí sí máa rán yín sílé ni. Máa rán yín sílé ni. People just throw words around. And even for all that Tinubu has done, what have you done for him? What have you now given to him? He made this person special advisor, made this person something. Igbos from here in politics, in government, Lagos government. What has he gained from that now from you? Apart from the curses that you heap on him on a daily basis. And this Awolowo being tribalistic thing, I hope you know that when you say it, you actually sound very dumb. I don't care who is talking now. Sincerely, I know even your elders say it. The dumbest of them, the smartest of them sound like the dumbest of them. Like, what do you mean it was tribalistic? If it was tribalistic, I would stand by it and say yes, it was. But the definition of tribalism to you is somebody that hates your ethnic group. But the question is this: for a person who hates you so much, how come he allowed food to be sent to you people during war? Because it wasn't under any duty. He had no duty to supply Biafra with food or allow food to get in there. How come he did allow them to take food in there, although your leader Ojukwu and his soldiers were stealing the food and eating it? Thank you for the word. It was under no obligation to provide that stuff. It was tribalistic. They will send the food. Soldiers will take the food and eat the food. Thank you for the gift. And it was tribalistic. It was tribalistic while for the 2.5 years while the war was on, he was saving the allocation to the East Central State. It was tribalistic. And after the war, he packed the money and gave it to the administrator of that region. How come you guys like Asika, but you don't ask where Asika got the money that he used to rebuild East Central State? You don't think somebody will just come and say, hate this person. You say, how much? Let's just hate him. More just the hate him. That's why no matter what anybody does, all these people, they are not worth. Just waiting in your heart. Just do it for God. Just do it for God. He hated Igbos to the point where after they had given them the money that was due, He arranged for £900,000 to be given to them on a monthly basis as subvention, and he hated them. He hated them to the point where he facilitated about £3.5 million to be deposited in African Continental Bank so that Igbo people will be able to access loans and start businesses after the war. But he hated them. He hated them to the point where he had to ensure that they got another money into Cooperative Bank of Eastern Nigeria so that Igbo men and women after the war will be able to access loans. Do you guys even think even the £20 he gave you is the height of magnanimity, benevolence, because he had no reason to do it? What does he get from that for now? Even right now, everybody just curse him out. Oh, he gave us £20 as if he owed you any money, as if Nigeria owed you anything. It's a very funny world, and it doesn't matter what you do for certain people; they will say curse you out. No, the Tinubu you are saying now that what have you done for him? We're not the ones singing Baba we no kinikon and they shake, leg they shake. You know singing for him. Anyway, if a Yoruba person resist the urge to do Tupac versus Biggie, when we were growing up, we used to think that Barrister and Koniti had the same thing until we discovered later that it was a gimmick. They said it, by the way. Collington said it was a gimmick. They're not fighting. We'll be doing all this thing of let me see Awolowo versus. There will be no Tinubu without Awolowo. That's a fact. And there's no sense in a son who grows up studying his father and then says to his father and says, "I'm greater than you." You are insane. You are supposed to be greater than your father. He wants you to be greater than him. The day you utter it is the day you begin to fall. Can't come around and say it's better than Kinikon. That's why some people will not make progress. Because the very foundation you are building on, you are destroying it as you are building it, as you are building whatever nonsense you think you are building. So that person, what I responded was, Orisha is greater than politicians, but we love them both. And I think that's how we should think. Awolowo is head and shoulders above everybody. Just learn. You don't have to say this versus that. It doesn't even make sense. I'm not even. I'm not sure. I was going to say something like I just remembered now. I was going to say I'm not sure that Tinubu will not even dare to think of this kind of nonsense. I don't know if you remember. This was in his first term as governor. He had this billboard. That was President Tinubu at the time, where you see the glasses. He was using the wire rim glasses, just like Awo, and it was strategically placed. I don't know if you noticed. It was passing a message without saying a lot of words, but what he was doing was to connect himself to the legacy of Awolowo using the wire rimmed glasses. And interestingly, Awolowo was also doing that, connecting himself to Mahatma Gandhi using the wire rimmed glasses. You see, most of these people were imitating Awo, which is how it should be. Then get to a point where they will scale and even succeed where he failed. That is the joy. If Awo were to be alive right now, he would be happy that Tinubu is fulfilling that dream. But you're not seeing the lesson. All you are thinking of you are thinking of games. We've got to grow. By the way, having said that, today's topic is about Awolowo and Akintola, and there is no bigger Kinikon versus Kinikon in Nigerian politics than Awo and Akintola, and that's why even when I know that that's what we're discussing, I'm still very careful to not say, "Oh, Akintola did not do this." There are things he did not do. I'm going to read some of those things today, but I'm always trying to lay the foundation of look at what he did, see what he said, so that way you are acknowledging the good without just throwing the baby away with the bathwater and saying, "Oh, Awo was the greatest. Akintola was nothing." Awolowo is the greatest. He did great things. Akintola made mistakes. Awo also made mistakes. And Akintola's mistakes do not in any way erase the good that he did. That's how and then we can now look at what they did, go on, and say, Baba, Baba, Akintola should not have done this. So what comes out of that is lessons for you. So you have not studied history to pick the lessons that you can apply to your own life, not just to be watching TV and say this one versus this one. You're not. It's not a football match. It's history. We're not throwing dice. Nobody's collecting. We're not betting. We're not doing games. We're not playing games. We are serious. So I just said that to say that these are some of the things that get us to that can actually affect our understanding of our forebears, and if we allow that, we are the ones who will lose, because we now stay at the level of Kamama if we want where I want. Meanwhile, did you see what President Tinubu did? It was last month to celebrate Mama HID Awolowo. Why do you think he did it? Mama has been, she's been there for a while. Why would Awolowo, put out a statement in newspapers, on social media, celebrating Mama HID Awolowo? Why do you think, why would Tinubu do that? I just hope we are learning, Sha. Or else, we're not different from, every other person who's just making noise. I know we can't do all this. My father did something, Awolowo did this. We have to do something. Okay, Awolowo did this, but I can do this based on what I have learned from him, which is the reason for all of this we're doing. All right. Having said that, let's get to class. The news for today is still much, but it's already 6 o'clock, and it's time to get into today's session. So today we're continuing with the series, Awolowo, Akintola, and the battle for the West. All right. We have two main books. The other books, we're going to probably get into much later. I should make this announcement. Let me make this announcement. Bombo. We're going to get into the session today, but I think it's important for me to quickly say this, and then I'll talk about it again at the end. But please just see, I promised I was going to put this out today, so it's important for me to mention it before we go on. Please look at this thing. I don't know if you can see everything. I'm going to put it on the Telegram channel as well. All right. So you can now apply. So the game that I talked about, Redomi Republic, the game show, will be starting next week. That's on Friday. So let me just read what's here. Think you know Nigerian and Yoruba history. This is your chance to represent truth, test your knowledge, and earn your place in history on the Redomi live game show. Apply now to become a contestant. You can go to linktree.com. Linktree /Redomi Republic. You find a form there. Just click on the form. I will click on the link, and then you get in there and you can apply. I'll put the link and the other stuff. Sorry guys. Sometimes you mute people for a second thinking that they have sense, but apparently this one is empty-headed. Where was I? So please, if you'd like to be part of the show, I'm going to talk more about this at the end of today's session, but Redomi Republic is starting on 24th. We'll record on TikTok, and then we'll put out the content on different channels on YouTube and Facebook and things like that. Please also follow Redomi Republic subscribe to Redomi Republic on YouTube, because that will be the channel that will be using to push that content. And if you'd like to contest, please go to Linktree /Redomi Republic. And also, if you'd like to sponsor it or support the show in any way, please reach out to me on Telegram at Busui Oris on different platforms. All right. Again, I'm going to talk about it and go a bit deeper at the end of this show today. So yeah, Redomi Republic, it's a game show. We're focusing on Nigeria and Yoruba history, politics, and culture. So if you have knowledge in these things, just come up, test, and you can also get the cash prize. On that day, once we start, I'll talk about the rules of the game and how it's different from any other game you've seen. So please support it, and I'm looking forward to the impact and influence we're going to have with this show, so that we'll be able to learn history in a different way. So please support this. Again, the Telegram channel is Redomi Global. Okay, And what I'm going to do is put this image there and also put the link that you can then use. All right. You guys are still responding to the one we're saying gimmick. Don't worry. It's not, I don't think it's even here anymore because it's just one of those rabble rousers. They have nothing positive to say. And by the way, there are some people that you shouldn't even be having conversations with about Nigerian politics or Yoruba politics because they have nothing of such where they come from. All right, so that's the show. It's coming up next week. We'll be recording on TikTok. So if you want to be part of it, all you need is to have, you see the requirements in the form. You have a TikTok account. You have to show your face, by the way. And then we'll record together. So this way, you won't have to be in the studio to be part of the show. You could be wherever you are in the world and, still be a part of it. All right? Okay. So I'm trying to put the link there so that all of us can access it from the channel. So please go on Telegram, Redomi Global. That's REDOMI Global. And you'll find this stuff there. Okay, where were we? All right, so the flyer is there right now, and also the link. All right, and please double tap on TikTok. Thank you very much, Yemonites. Thank you. Please let's double tap on TikTok as we get into today's conversation. So for the Redomi Republic, if you'd like to contest, please use the link that we have in Redomi Global Telegram channel. If you'd like to support, please reach out to me on Telegram as well, Busui Oris, on Facebook, anywhere, just Busui Oris. And then we'll tell you how you can support what we're going to start, because we're going to be giving people money. And that money will get bigger and bigger. And the show itself will get bigger and bigger, like Barolong. But thank you very much for, listening. So let's get to this. We'll come back to Redomi Republic at the end of today's session. All right? Okay, so Awolowo, Akintola, and the Battle for the West, Part 5. Again, this is not the kind of conversation where we are pitting one against the other and say, oh, this is right, this is wrong. We can acknowledge the wrongs of both, and if you've been here for a bit, you would have heard me say what I thought Papa should have done at a particular point. And again, hindsight is 2020, so it's okay to see even the mistakes of our heroes, not so that we can berate them or we can look down on them, but so we can learn from them and then do things better, so that they would even be proud of us to know that we have learned enough to be able to succeed where maybe they failed or they came short, right? So it's normal, it's okay to do that. Also to say that when we highlight the mistakes of Akintola, is not because we're also trying to make him out to be this terrible person. That's not the plan, that's not the goal, and I hope that all of us remember that as we get into this conversation, because we started the other day, but it might get a bit tense with the part we're going to read today. All right, so we mentioned that, the primary book we've been using that we used before we moved to Awolowo's perspective was Ẹkáàbọ Akintola, His Life and Times, or the book is Ẹkáàbọ Akintola, His Life and Times by Akinjide Osuntokun. It's a very good book. Of course, there are certain things I don't agree with, which is normal, all right? And I don't agree with, not because I'm not comfortable with what he's saying, but because it doesn't align with other sources. But that's not to say the book is not good. It's just, it happens when people write. Sometimes our bias shows. It's normal. All right. So we mentioned some things. I don't want to go back to everything we've talked about, but we talked about different things that Akintola did while he was in the federal parliament. He worked as Minister of Health, Minister of Aviation, was in charge of telecommunication at this point. He did, communication at a point, helping with even the NTV, WNBS. Fantastic, person. And then we got into how he moved to the Western region. Now, there's something I saw something yesterday. Was it this morning? It was an interview, And the person said Akintola never wanted to be premier, that they called him to become premier. That's not true. That's not true. I mean, I don't want to mention the person's name because also I don't think it would be fair, to say what this person said. Especially because the person is not saying it from is not saying it from a bad place. I guess it was an honest mistake. Akintola lobbied to be premier after Awolowo said he was going to the center. So it wasn't something that just happened like that. It was something that, people were involved in, people like Eso, Gbadamosi, people like Akintola, they were involved in trying to persuade Awolowo to work with or to hand over to Akintola. But before we get into all of that, we mentioned also that after he eventually became premier, that he came up with this very interesting idea where he was going to give tax relief. Now, when you read the book by Professor Osuntokun, he made it seem as though it was a very, good thing to do. And I'll read what he says in his book. It says the government also abolished payment of taxes by women, a decision which was very popular at the time because of the agitation against women paying taxes since the measure was introduced during the dying days of Awolowo's last administration. Now, when you read that, what are you left with? Oh, Akintola did something to reverse Awolowo trying to punish people by paying taxes, but that's not what happened. In truth, by 59 that Awolowo was leaving, it wasn't all the divisions in Western region that were paying taxes as far as the women were concerned. Our women were not paying taxes. Only 3 divisions were paying taxes. Well, only 3 divisions, let me put it this way, women only paid taxes in 3 divisions, Egba, Ijebu, and Ijebu-Remo. It was £5 in Egba, £10 in Ijebu, and then 5 shillings in Egba, 10 shillings in Ijebu, and £2 in Remo. And Remo happens to be Papa's constituency. So what Akintola was doing with the abolition, and by the way, again, I know I'm saying this is not to ridicule any of our elders, it's just to see what happened. And I thought about it today. Somebody will see some of these videos and say, why are you talking about these things? Because we don't want to have what's happening right now between Tinubu and Aregbesola. That's why. We are repeating this thing. That's the problem. So, this is not but also a way to ensure that we talk about what has happened and we don't just keep sweeping things under the carpet and having a repeat of terrible history. Okay? So I was saying that when Akintola came up with the idea of abolishing the taxes, it wasn't so much because the people needed heat. It was because it was a way to warm his way into the heart of the women, particularly in Awolowo's constituency, which would have dealt a real big blow. It should have weakened him at home. And by the way, he eventually did it. So having said that, I'm going to leave this book for a while. You know what, I have to calm down because somewhere in my mind at 6 o'clock, we are close to closing. So now I have to recalibrate my mind knowing that we're just starting. So let me read a few things before we go to Papa's book. So in this book, the man mentioned the things that Awolowo did and how they spent money. He talked about the fact that 31 million of the revenue, in fact, let me go back a bit. Between 1954 and 1962, excuse me, 1 second, please. But I'm a Kaluni Paul. Am I like it, You're going to like it. Between 1954 and 1962, the marketing board realized a sum of £64 million. I'll take that again. Between 1954 and 1962, the marketing board realized a sum of £64 million sterling as surplus of revenue over expenditure. In other words, that's the profit. £64 million sterling as surplus of revenue over expenditure. 31 million of this was granted to various ministries. 14 million was lent to the government and various corporations such as housing, development and finance corporations owned by the government. 10 million was invested in various Nigerian companies. Another 10 million was divided between the Agbomagbe Bank, which we now call Wema Bank, by the way. By the way, was Wema Bank and National Bank that became the new Wema Bank. but Agbomakbe was the original bank that eventually became Wema Bank. So he says here, Another 10 million was divided between the Agbomakbe Bank, the Merchants Bank, the Association of Nigerian Cooperative Exporters, the Cooperative Bank of Western Nigeria, the Nigerian Produce Marketing Company, the National Bank, which was given 3 million, and the National Investment and Properties Company Limited, which received 6 million pounds. The National Bank, the National Investment and Properties Company, the Agbomakbe Bank, and the Merchants Bank were all in the hands of Action Group politicians. Then he mentioned the other things that were done. He talked about the Western Region Development Corporation, which was created in 1959 with the aim that the corporation would spearhead agricultural and industrial development of the region. It was headed by Alfred Rwani. The person who said Awolowo was this very tribalistic person. You know, the people that were not part of the Yoruba heartland. But to be fair, Rwani is a Shekiri, so he's one of us. But at least we know what happened with Osage. Not Osage. And Naoro, who wasn't even Yoruba, but that tribalism nonsense that you guys were taught by your parents is what it is, nonsense. The WRDC, that's the Western Region Development Corporation, by 1962 had acquired a financial interest in 15 companies and held over 50% of the shares in the following companies: Nigerian Plastics Company Limited, Nido Gas Limited, Nigerian Plastics Company Sales Limited, Niger Soil Construction Company Limited, and the Niger Water Resources Development Company Limited. The development corporations also undertook agricultural projects worth millions. It owned the Araromi Rubber Estate, which cost £1.5 million, and the Remo Rubber Estate in Ikene, which cost the corporation £1 million to develop. Then there's Ewoimi and Igube. The corporation also acquired palm oil plantations at Akpoje at a cost of £509,000, and at Irele, Ewoimi and Iguben, more plantations were set up at a cost of £630,000. Cocoa projects at Odo and Ibokun cost £546,000. Cashew plantations at Eruwa and Iwo cost the corporation £170,000. A coffee plantation was established at Owo at the cost of £170,000. The corporation between 1954 and 1962 also invested £1.5 million in industries and hotel businesses. The Action Group of Western Nigeria under Awolowo also created the Western Region Finance Corporation, which under him invested about £2.5 million in 6 concerns, 4 of which ran into difficulties or were bought at inflated values. Again, this man always has something to say about but it's okay. Then it talks about different things that, of all the corporations that sprang up under Awolowo, it talked about Western Nigerian Housing Corporation, which was supervised by none other than the minister in charge, Chief J.O. Oshuntokon, his own father. Anyway, everything was nonsense, but anyway, it's good. All right, so just to give us like an idea of the things, that they accomplished at the time. He also talked about the fact that they worked with the Israeli company Solebone to create, okay, I found it. It says, before Chief Awolowo left Western Nigeria as Premier, he had spent more than £30 million in contracts on road and water projects awarded to Niger Soil Construction Company and Western Nigeria Water Resources Limited, 2 firms jointly owned by the Israeli firm of Solebone and the Western Region Development Corporation, which had lent the 2 firms £2 million in the case of Niger Soil and £1 million to Western Nigeria Water Resources, apparently as mobilization fees to allow the companies to perform. These are some of the things that Awolowo did as Premier at the time. And then, of course, I said earlier that this man mentioned, the taxes that were removed by Akintola after Akintola took over. He said Akintola found it very difficult to work because he couldn't even change his ministers, because he had to work with the ministers that were there before he got there, and all the things they spent money on were the plans that Awolowo already had, which is quite interesting. And you shouldn't be talking about it like that, because we're talking about parliamentary system of government. We're talking about a situation where the party was supreme, and that the party would have a goal that no matter who becomes, the head of government has to dance to the tune of the party. So it's not so much about of course, it is Awolowo's vision, or it was Awolowo's vision, but beyond that, it was also the party's vision. And so the idea that you want to, come with fresh ideas, we also have to still go, you have to go according to what the party wants to do at the time, not so much because you have a great idea. You have to be able to convince the party. Anyway, having said that, let's now go back to Awolowo's book. Again, his main book for this session, Awolowo's main book for this session is Adventures in Power, Book 2, The Travails of Democracy and the Rule of Law. And in this book, Papa mentioned how from the word go, he never wanted to have Akintola become the premier. Now, when you read Akinjide Oshitokun's book, he said the reason was because Akintola was Oyo Yoruba, and I said that is very far from the truth, with all due respect. Because the man who was the deputy to Awolowo, deputy leader of the party, before Akintola, that man himself was an Oyo Yoruba man, Bode Thomas. And it was only because he died that Akintola was able to become that, and they were from the same area, Oyo Yoruba Lamejeje. So you can't say that, oh, he hates Oyo Yoruba people, but then you say he likes Bode Thomas. But he didn't like this one because he was Oyo Yoruba. But Bode Thomas also is Oyo Yoruba, so it's quite interesting. Anyway, he mentioned why he didn't like him. He talked about the fact that he wasn't, let me read Enemy Ugba. It's better for me to read what Papa himself said. He said, I was very reluctant to recommend SLA as my successor in the Western region. I had two main reasons for my reluctance. Firstly, I was of the considered opinion that he completely lacked all the attributes for such a high office: industry, mental application, competence, discipline, honesty, and a consuming passion to cater for the best interest of the people. Secondly, I conscientiously thought there were more suitable people in the cabinet which I headed. So those are the things that made him say no to him initially. Then he mentioned how he was able to persuade him through the instrumentality of Chief Alhaji Yesu Gbadamosi and Chief Akintola, which also contradicts what the gentleman I listened to earlier today was saying, that, SLA did not want to become premier, he was just in Lagos, so it's not true. How do I know? Because this man did not just say what happened, he also mentioned people who were alive at the time he was writing this book. Akintola no doubt knew of my reluctance to agree to the advice tendered to me by Alhaji Yesu Gbadamosi and Dr. Akintola. These are people for whom I had, and in the case of Alhaji Gbadamosi, still have great respect. But it took them more than 18 months before they succeeded in securing my concurrence. In other words, it took them 18 months to convince Awolowo that Akintola should be the premier. In the course of the protracted lobbying, they had no doubt reported to SLA the efforts they had been making. I gave them in strict confidence the two reasons which I stated above for not wanting him to succeed me. It was not unlikely that they had told him, without revealing the particulars, that I had grave objections to his candidature. So from the very word go, Awolowo did not want him to be the premier of the region. And clearly, he wanted to be that. We also mentioned one event that they both attended in 1960. It was 3rd of April 1960, and that was the installation of the past Awujale, which is quite interesting. Awujale, it was installed in 1960. I think probably one of the longest serving monarchs, right, in Nigeria, or maybe even in the world. 65 years. Anyway, at the installation, it was a custom amongst people. Whenever they saw Awo, they would shout Awo, 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 and then of course with SLA they would still shout, Awo and then SLA. And because SLA has already become the premier, it would have been really nice for him to be seen as the main person. So I think there was a problem with that. And how do we know that? Because Papa wrote to us, Papa wrote in this book what his driver and SLA's driver discussed. It says here, about 6 p.m., SLA and I left for Ibadan. That's from Ijebu. I don't want to talk about all the things that happened in Ijebu because we talked about it in the other videos. About 6 p.m., SLA and I left for Ibadan. He and his wife in their own car, and my wife and I in our own car. It was on our way to Ibadan that my driver, Mr. Lajumo Efunuga, related to us a story which had been told him by SLA's driver, and which rationally explained SLA's attitude. When he said attitude, he was essentially saying, while they were, after the installation of Obasikiru Adetono, SLA was looking morose, he wasn't happy, and he said it was because they kept him waiting not the politicians, but that the Ilu kept him waiting, and things like that. But they talked about it, Anyway, the story that the driver or Papa's driver told him, as far as Papa was concerned, now made him realize what the real issue was. So goes the story. When SLA and his wife left Itoro that day, the latter complained bitterly about the behavior of the crowd. They were mannerless. By the way, the latter, of course, we're talking about the wife. They were mannerless and disrespectful. They knew that her husband was the premier and that he was in sole charge of the occasion. Why then were they so thoughtless and rude as to be shouting "Awo" on him? This kind of unseemly behavior must stop, and he must do something about it. In his response, SLA said that the crowd were extremely discourteous. They had treated him with contempt by shouting "Awo" on him. That was not the first time that this kind of thing had happened since he became premier. Indeed, he was determined to do something about it without further delay. He declared and assured his wife, "Give me 6 months, and no one will hear the shout of Awo in this region again." And the wife promptly responded, and the wife promptly commented, "That is how it should be." So that gives you an idea of what was simmering, all right? The idea of, egos here and there. And then we talked about the different other things that Papa mentioned in the book. Okay, which takes us now to what he said about the fact that I said it was very good when it came to Osun affairs. It was very versed in Osun affairs. His knowledge of the culture, psychology, history, and mores of the Yoruba people of the old Oyo province was superb. I attached great value to his political advice and judgment insofar as the old Oyo province was concerned. He knew little of the other parts of the country. Indeed, he had veiled contempt for the non-Oyo Yoruba, profound detestation for the Igbo, and a fulsome and fawning admiration for people of the Hausa Fulani stock. Like I said the other day, I do not know if he had contempt for non-Oyo Yoruba, but I know that he had profound detestation for the Igbo, and I would say for good reason. And at this juncture, I'd like us to listen to Baba SLA just for a bit, Chief SLA Akintola, just for a bit, and then we'll continue with the conversation. Again, I'm saying this because what he complained about in the 1960s, this was in 65, is what we are still having to deal with today in 2025, 60 years later. Take a listen to this, please.
Yóò fún àwọn ní àǹfààní láti bọ́ síwájú nígbà tí ètò láti rí i pé gbogbo àlá tí àwọn ti ńlá látẹ̀yìnwá àwọn lo ìbò bíi àwúre tí èyí tí àlá náà ṣe. Nítorí ẹ ó rántí pé ní nǹkan bíi 20 ọdún sẹ́yìn ni ọ̀kan nínú àwọn aṣáájú nínú àwọn Ìgbò alákùkọ ló lanu ló sọ fún wa pé òun ká àwọn Ìgbò alákùkọ bíi àkàndá Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè tí Ọlọ́run sọ̀kalẹ̀ sílé ayé láti wá jẹ gàba lórí gbogbo àwa ẹ̀dá yòókù pàápàá jùlọ ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà.
He was there referring to the statement that Azikiwe made in 1949 when he said that God has specially created the Igbo race to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. And when he said Igbo Akuko, I think I mentioned it the other day that Akuko, the cockerel was the symbol of the party that was popular in the eastern region. And that party, again, the party started in western region, started in Lagos, right? Was popular in Lagos, was also popular in the western region, in parts of your division, in parts of Ibadan, in parts of Ondo. It was quite popular. It was not an Igbo party, but it was Igbo-nized, right? And then it became synonymous with them. So when he said Igbo Alakuko, he's talking about both. He's talking about both their ethnicity and their political party, all right? And when he said Ijegaba, he's also alluding to what Onyema said in 45. That the domination of Nigeria by the Igbo was only a question of time. These were the things they had to deal with while campaigning. So again, that mindset is still there, and it's important for us to acknowledge these things that Chief SLA Akintola did, so that we don't. Sorry, Chief Laluki Akintola did, so that we don't forget. it's one of those things. It's one of these areas that Awolowo, didn't do as well because he didn't think they were such a problem, but they were and they are. Let's keep listening.
Wá jẹ gàba lórí gbogbo àwa ẹ̀dá yòókù pàápàá jùlọ ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ò pé ní nǹkan nígbà náà. Ṣùgbọ́n láti ìgbà tí wọ́n ti sọ eléyìí ni wọ́n ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ tọ̀ ọ́. Díẹ̀díẹ̀ ni inú ẹlẹ́dẹ̀ẹ́ sì ń wọgbà láti ìgbà náà lọ. Ibi tí àwọn ọmọ ti tó tu òjìire àti àwọn mìíràn ní òkè ọya tí a ò gbé fura. Ẹni tí ń jàpá ń jàpá. Ẹni tí ń po èbó oríṣiríṣi ń po èbó oríṣiríṣi. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn tí wọ́n mọ ibi táwọn ń lọ tí wọ́n fẹ́ fi ara wọn sí ipò tí àwọn èèyàn yòókù tí wọn ò ní jẹ́ nǹkan mọ́ wọn ò jàpá rárá. Wọ́n ń dùn ún ní gbogbo ọ̀nà láti ní pé wọ́n jẹ gàba. Mo fẹ́ di ẹ̀yin tí ẹ̀ ń gbọ́ ohùn mi. Mélòó nínú àwọn tó ti ilẹ̀ ìwọ̀ oòrùn tí wọ́n tu òjò tó fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ́ àárín àgbò tó fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ́ balógun ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò alákùkọ mo béèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ tó wá lè ka iye àwọn Ìgbò alákùkọ tí wọ́n wà ní òkè ọya àti wọ́n wà ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àwọn àjòjì gbogbogbò tí pé kí ọmọ onílẹ̀ òmọ́yìn ó lè kà wọ́n láàrin wa ìwọ̀n òkú Ìbàdàn ìwọ̀n ò jẹ́ kí ọmọ onílẹ̀ mú mi ìwọ̀n òkú Kánò ìwọ̀n òkú Abẹ́òkúta bẹ́ẹ̀ ìwọ̀n pọ̀ káàkiri tó ebi Àkúrẹ́ ìwọ̀n ń lọ díẹ̀díẹ̀ láti rí pé wọ́n kárí ẹyin gbogbo ilẹ̀ wa wọ́n fún okùn mọ́ wa lọ́rùn nípa ètò tí ìjọba nípa ọ̀nà tí òwò ibo ni ojú wọn ò ká ibo ni wọn ò dé ibo ni wọn rán okùn yí wa kádé yóò bá sí ètò tí ìbò nípa àwọn ò ní ká wa tó bẹ́ẹ̀ nígbà tí ọ̀rọ̀ tí ìbò wá dé wọ́n wá múra àwọn ní pé àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní òkè ọya nípa àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá nípa àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní ilẹ̀ tí wọ́n pàpà ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò wàhálà àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní ilẹ̀ tí àbọ̀ ìfínní kìí ṣe tí wọ́n ti fẹ́ jẹ gàba bẹ́ẹ̀ kí ni wọ́n ń lé kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ mú àlàyé ẹ̀yìn ọmọ ìyá mi ó la ojú ẹ sílẹ̀ tí wọ́n náà ń wòran lónìí ara ohun tí wọ́n fẹ́ mú òun náà ni láti di olórí lọ́nà gbogbo ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ò bá lọ sí ìlú Èkó lónìí gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ jàǹkànjàǹkàn ipò níbẹ̀ àwọn wo ló rí níbẹ̀ o bó lọ bí ti ọkọ̀ ilẹ̀ àwọn wo ló lórí àwọn wo ló wà láàrin àwọn wo ni wọ́n ń jẹ́ balógun tó lọ sí ti ọkọ̀ òfurufú nígbà tó bá wọ pé àwọn wo la ṣáájú ń bẹ̀ kì í ṣe àwọn ipò alásùpọ̀ yìí náà ni bó bá kúrò ń bẹ̀ tó lọ sí ti ọkọ̀ ojú omi àwọn kan yìí náà ló bá ń bẹ̀.
Just hold on for a bit.
Tó bá kúrò ń bẹ̀ tó bá wá àwọn aṣojú ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ní ilẹ̀ òkèèrè ọ̀bá lọ sí Moscow ọ̀bá lọ sí Paris ọ̀bá lọ sí Bonn ọ̀bá lọ sí Berlin ọ̀bá lọ sí New York ọ̀bá lọ sí Washington àwọn tó bá ń bẹ̀ wọ́n kì í ṣe mọ̀dẹ́mọ́sọ àrò bó kì í mọ tèmi mà bó kò yí lógun lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ògbọ́n kankan ara àbòmí ni wọ́n gbìyànjú wọ́n ka ara wọn mọ́lẹ̀ látàpá wọ́n rí ara wọn bí òpó wọ́n fẹ́ sọ àwa yòókù bí ìpọ̀sì ọ̀nà wo ni wọ́n gbà débẹ̀ mo ní ìbò yìí náà ni wọ́n lò tí wọ́n yí débẹ̀ wọ́n tó ń gbọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ mi láti Èkó wá àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní ìlú bí Ìbàdàn àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní ìlú bí Kaduna ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ti wà káàkiri bẹ̀rẹ̀ bá tí èsì ti ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lónìí ẹ ó mọ̀ pé gbogbo àwọn akúròtù òjúre gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní òkè ọya gbogbo àwọn tá a wà ní Nàìjíríà a gbọ́dọ̀ tẹ okùn ṣòkòtò wa tọ̀ tó dáa ó dàbí ẹni pé pàkúté àwọn ọ̀kánjúà yìí pàkúté àwọn wọ̀bìà wọ̀ bílíkì ó dàbí ẹni pé ó fẹ́ mú wa àǹfààní wà fún wa nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ tí a ó bọ́ sí láti bọ́ kúrò nínú pàkúté náà.
All right. Wọ́n Takote fẹ́ mú wa 965 ṣùgbọ́n àǹfààní wà lórí ìwò tán fẹ́ dì láti pé wọ́n bọ́ nínú Takote náà. Takote yẹn ṣì wà ń bẹ̀ o. Chief Esele, he said something, Olóyè, he said something that the way they're able to get what they wanted was through elections. Wọ́n máa fi nǹkan tó wà nílẹ̀ ṣe nǹkan táwọn fẹ́ ṣe. You make laws with the assumption that all of us are sane, with the assumption that all of us are, there's a level of morality that we're going to work with. I think we should be making the assumption that we should be making laws with the assumption that everybody is bad. The Bible says the heart of man is desperately wicked. You should first know that everybody is bad. Then, if you now find a good one, praise God. But don't be naive. All right. I pray that to tell you let us listen to what Chief Akintola said. These things are still true today, and we must learn from that. And one of these days, we'll listen a little more, but it's quite long. But that's, if I'm looking at an image where I was installing the Awojale, like I mentioned earlier. Having said that, now let's get into this. Sometime in January 1960, during his first month in office as Premier, Akintola told me rather casually that he was thinking of reducing rates and taxes in the region. Rates and taxes in the region. I advised him not to contemplate such a policy, as it was in our circumstances dangerous. Then on 10th February 1960, at Akintola's request, a meeting was held in my house at Ibadan. It was attended by Akintola himself, Chief J.A.O. Odebiyi, and Chief Simeon Adebo. The latter two were Minister of Finance and Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, respectively. Chief Adebo was also head of the civil service of the region. At this meeting, SLA spoke of the desirability of reducing per capita flat rate tax from an average of £4.17 and of abolishing flat rate tax on women. I already explained this earlier. There were only 3 divisions in which the latter kind of tax was paid in the whole of the Western region: Egba Division, Ijebu Division, and Ijebu-Remo Division. We explained earlier that only those 3 paid. Egba paid 5 shillings, Ijebu paid 10 shillings, and Remo paid £2. In other words, Awolowo was taxing the women from his own constituency more than any other part of Western region. You may say it's not good politics, but that's fantastic leadership. And you see, at that point in Nigeria, I guess we need leaders. We still do. May God raise some for us, because we need them. Anyway, but we also need to play politics well, because the reality is that you need some bits of Akintola with a lot of Awo in order to make it in this country politically. That's my opinion. You may not believe, you may not agree, that's okay. You need a lot of Awo and a bit of Akintola, like a chunk of what he has, so that he can, which I think is what President Tinubu is doing. All right, let's go on. So he came up with the idea of removing taxes, and then said, oh, if you remove this tax, that you're essentially, what's the word he used? Passing a vote of no confidence. So he says, in my contribution, I made 4 points. First, these actions will amount to a vote of no confidence in the former administration, which in the midst of the region's affluence had insisted that the people should bear the burden of rates and taxes. In other words, Akintola was not doing this to lessen the burden on people. He was doing this to become popular. And to make matters work, like I said, I don't know if this is actually, if you get where I'm going with this. There were many divisions across the region. Only 3 had women paying taxes. Of those 3, Awo's constituency paid the most. If Akintola had succeeded, it would have turned people against him, and he succeeded. Although he didn't succeed, delay. So they told him that if you reduce these taxes that you're talking about reducing, what's going to happen is that when the time comes for you to increase it, people are going to, they're going to revolt, because, like they say, there's no tax as good as the old one. They wouldn't want you to increase the taxes. Anyway, long story short, it says that the plan was to have all the women paying taxes but decided to start with those three, and they should continue so that they can make it, cultural, like something that everybody wants to be part of. At the close of my remarks, I stated that on those very vital issues, it was absolutely essential that the views of the party leaders should be consulted before any final decision or action was taken. Discussions were initiated immediately amongst party leaders. I was also planning to summon a joint meeting of the Regional Executive Committee and Parliamentary Council for some time in March. But on 7th March 1960, Chief Akintola announced his proposed reduction as well as abolition in the terms spelled out to us at the meeting in my house on 10th February 1960. In other words, regardless of the fact that the leader of the party was against it, his own ministers were against it, the party was against it, Akintola announced it. In other words, populist policies to get popular acclamation, people will like you. Now, where the problem starts with this, he became premier in January. He came up with that stuff in February. Without waiting for final decision, he passed it in March. Let's go on. He did this in the teeth of solid opposition from the vast majority of his colleagues inside and outside Parliament. His official advisors were also opposed to what was generally regarded as an extremely short-sighted and retrograde policy. I'll tell that again. His official advisors were also opposed to what was generally regarded as an extremely short-sighted and retrograde policy. Thank you very much for putting that out there, Empress, on TikTok. Thank you so much. Please click on the heart icon. I should have said this before, but thank you for bringing it up. Please click on the heart icon on TikTok. Click on the heart icon above me here and join the team. If you're already a member, drop a heart to me. We're going to get the live on the FYP, and we're also seeing Amber Alert at this moment. Please power tap. All right, please power tap, share the live. But please drop a heart, drop a gift, drop whatever. These things help the life. We really need all the help we can get, okay? Thank you very much for your support. If you're on YouTube, we need more people to like the live. So please, if you're on YouTube, like the live. We still have about 1.5 hours to go, and we have a lot of things to learn. But please, let's keep this thing going. If you're on Facebook as well, please like and share. On Twitter, please like and retweet. Thank you. So let's go on. Shortly after that announcement, he went further, this time without any consultation with me or any other party leader outside government, to exempt women within a certain income range from the payment of income or any kind of tax, income tax or any kind of tax at all. He had meant to win popular acclaim for these policies, but somehow the majority of the people were unimpressed. In fact, the women in Ijebu Remo sent a delegation to me on the matter. The delegation was led by Mrs. Odutola of blessed memory. That was before 7th March 1960. When the matter was being discussed at various levels, they said they had just learned of the proposed abolition and they did not like it at all. They were quite happy that they had an opportunity to participate in contributing funds for the provision of amenities which they and their husbands and children and children enjoyed. I'll take it again. They were quite happy that they had an opportunity to participate in contributing funds for the provision of amenities which they and their husbands and children enjoyed. They urged me to persuade the Premier to let them continue to pay the former rate of tax, or a token of not less than £1. I passed the representation. Election under the premiership of Akintola took place on 8th August 1960. The AG did exceedingly well as an election. For the first time, the party won 50% of the seats in the Midwest zone. As yesterday had no Schumann for the non-Yoruba elements of the 10 o'clock that night, he ran up from Mosho to say that some Osun leaders insisted on staying with him in his house at Mosho to listen to the results. However, he would come the following day for lunch. I should expect him about 12 noon. It was the incurable habit of SLA to be late for any appointment. Once, we were invited to dinner at Government House by Sir John Rankin, the governor of Western Region. SLA was then the 8th leader of opposition in the House of Representatives. We had just finished the last pause on the 4-course meal when he arrived. So I did not expect him to arrive. Giving him 2 hours of grace. In the morning, he explained, a large crowd had suddenly stood up on him. In the morning, he explained, a large crowd had suddenly stood upon him at the Lomosho and insisted on going to Ibadan with him in a motorcade. And at the approaches to Ibadan, another large crowd had waited to give him a triumphant welcome to Ibadan. I thought it was odd that the triumphant entry to Ibadan would be arranged for him by members of the party, not my knowledge. I should be the one to lead the victory procession with him on my side. Surely that would have been more impressive. He assured me that all the arrangements at the Lomosho and Ibadan had been made without his previous knowledge. SLA sat down as if to have a meal, but instead, he said that he was encouraged to keep an appointment with the governor for 2 o'clock. Please pay attention to what I'm doing.